Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Sean Andrew, back with another review. Today we'll be talking about Once Upon a Time. This will be Season 1, Episode 8, Desperate Souls. Now, because of how the story is told, I'm actually going to do this in two parts. The first one will be more of the fairy tale world, and then the second part will be dealing with the real world. So, in the fairy tale world, we have Rumpelstiltskin. His son is actually calling him outside. Apparently, there are some guardsmen that are trying to take a girl off to service. And as the parents are trying to stop them, there is a horseman who is about 1/5 of a mile away, and he is casting some type of spell that's kind of putting the parents in almost a dazed or shocked state so that they would prevent from furthering dealing with the guardsmen. They ride off, and then you see Rumpelstiltskin showing a very much a high level of concern because of his son getting ready to turn 14, just like the girl. Realizing this 2 nights before his son does turn of age, he tries to take him away. Down the road, he runs across a beggar, gives him a little something, but then out of the blue, the guardsman shows up. Now, they start to tell the story to the son about, do you really know who your father is? And they go on about how because of him, they lost some big battle and that a lot of people had died. And on the way back, his wife couldn't see herself being with a coward. So that's why she left. Well, there's also a little stint about how he couldn't really remember Rumpelstiltskin's name again and kind of poking fun at him. And so he makes him get on the ground and to kiss his boot. He shoves him off with his foot. They have a good laugh. And as they leave, the beggar then comes back to help him out. So you can kind of say, well, you'd be surprised who you help out in the past because they can probably help you out in the future. And these are one of those moments. And as he actually helps Rumpelstiltskin, he informs him of some very interesting information. He lets him know that that man that's on the horse that was casting the spell, well, he's kind of a slave. And he's a slave to the head's guardsman. And by taking the dagger that has his name on it would be the only way to control him and the powers that he has. And by doing that, he could be able to save his son. So he figures that, this is the best thing. It's the only real thing that he can actually do. So in preparation, he talks to his son about it. Look, we're going to go. We're going to set this thing up. I promise you, I'm going to be able to protect you, but not just you, all the children and people of the town. The son showed a bit of hesitation, was still willing to offer himself freely to go into the service. He definitely seemed to be willing to go more with the flow of things, as Rumpelstiltskin seems a bit more reserved about doing that type of stuff. That to me plays in another part that's going to happen later on, which is a twist in its own right, but it feels more something for like Jerry Springer. Later on that afternoon, they do end up going to the castle, and they start setting part of it on fire. Rumpelstiltskin ends up going inside, and he ends up finding where the dagger was located behind some huge cloth as everything's burning around. He makes it out safely. He meets up with his son to let him know, hey, everything's good, go back to the house and just wait. Now, as he's looking at the dagger, he realizes that the name of the man that's on the horse is named Zoso. So he decides he's going to summon him. Zoso shows up and informs about, be careful about how you choose to wield, the power. It can be very dangerous. Well, not actually wanting to keep Zoso as a slave, Rumpelstiltskin stabs him in the chest. And as he's applying a whole bunch of pressure, Zoso falls down to the ground. And lo and behold, Zoso actually transforms into the beggar. The beggar starts to laugh, and he seemed really happy about it. And he makes a comment when Rumpelstiltskin asks him why. And he says, well, I can definitely tell when there's a desperate soul. Looks like as if Zoso didn't want to be trapped in that position any much longer. And just because you have a lot of power doesn't always mean it could be the best thing for you. So he dies. And as Rumpelstiltskin actually starts pulling out the dagger because he notices his hand starts getting darker. It now has Rumpelstiltskin's name on the dagger. Well, it looks like the following morning or so, the guardsmen show up for his boy, and one by one, Rumpelstiltskin kills them all. And though it was to protect his boy, the boy now seemed very afraid of his father. This newfound power, almost, I mean, you can definitely tell why it would be. His face is different. His attitude is different. He just blatantly killed these horsemen. I think that would disturb most children. We have Emma going to see Mr. Gold as he wanted to say sorry about what happened with Sheriff Graham. He also lets her know about how children are precious and how she should take more time to spend with Henry, as he's trying to show her different things that are in the boxes that was of Mr. Graham's personal belongings. And that does kind of motivate her to go see Henry. Also because we come to find out that he's been kind of ducking her the past few weeks. And he is now feeling completely down about what happened. Not only just because of the sheriff dying, but that it really feels to him that evil always wins. They're willing to play low and dirty, and that the good guys never have a chance. This starts to really motivate Emma to fully taking on the sheriff position, as she has only been acting sheriff. Since it's been about 2 weeks, though, she can now actually take the position on completely, but the mayor fires her before doing so. Being upset, which is very understandable. I think after a while, she didn't even want that position. And because of everything that's happened, it's kind of pushed her to be more of a positive light. And now with Henry feeling down, it only makes even more sense to do so. So then we have Mr. Gold hears about the information and shows up to see Emma, letting her know of some newfound information. Hey. He tells her about the town charter and that the mayor doesn't have as much power as everyone thinks she does. What the mayor decides to do is that she's just going to simply up and appoint Sidney Glass, the man of the town paper, to the position. But Emily stops it and tells her that, hey, you can appoint a candidate, which means there has to be some type of competition, and then that she's going to put herself as the opposite candidate to run against him. That part kind of throws a wrench into the mayor's plans. She realizes that, I know who told you that. She goes and confronts Mr. Gold, and Mr. Gold, he definitely plays just as dirty as the mayor does. He just seems a bit more subtle about it, definitely fitting that Rumpelstiltskin type of mentality. She shows her displeased about the whole situation, but there's not much she can do. Now, what I will say, they don't fully tell how much information Mr. Gold / Rumpelstiltskin actually knows about the whole transfer between the fairy tale world to the real world. He seems to, of course, not be as affected because I think he knows his role. But again, I can't wait till they go into further and explaining who actually knows what now, because that would really change certain tides within the storyline. Well, so dealing with the situation of with the mayor leaving, later at the at the diner, Emma runs into Henry and sees that he's reading one of the episodes or the articles in Storybrooke Daily Mirror. And it talks about her past being in jail. And even though those records were supposed to be sealed, you can definitely tell this is the first part of a smear campaign, since you have the man who's running against her is also the man who runs the town paper. So he can put whatever negative things of her out there that he wants, and she can't really do too much about it. But she knows exactly of who had to actually get him this information. So she goes and decides to confront the mayor. The mayor talks a good game. The mayor doesn't really implicate herself at all. Some things just happen to pop up at times. And as they're going back and forth, she also informs Emma about the debate. Emma's a little taken back by that. I don't know why. And that's usually what happens when you have candidates. As they're walking down the stairs, going back and forth, a huge fire happens and the mayor gets injured. And this is one of those trying times of the situation at hand, because you have Emma who almost sees this level of worry, I won't say fear, I'll just say worry, in the mayor's eyes. And the mayor sitting there thinking, well, she says it out loud actually, you're going to leave me, aren't you? And Emma doesn't say anything. She actually goes and gets a fire extinguisher, starts putting out part of the fire, and takes her out of the building. Fires show up, and everyone's like, "Oh wow, she saved the mayor." Blah blah blah, and Emma notices something odd. Now, when she first went to Mr. Gold's shop, she knew about. She could smell something that just was very potent and extremely strong, and that smell was the same thing that was at the fire. She notices some type of twine into almost look like rope, and how it had that smell. She thinks, this is very odd. So she goes and confronts Mr. Gold and blames him for the fire. He, like the mayor, talks a very good game as well, not really fully implicating himself, saying, well, what may have happened, anything's a possibility. And she sees how he kind of twists his words, and she's starting to second guess into who she's actually dealing with. Later on, looks like they're going over to the debate, and she notices that everybody's there is thinking that she's a hero. She feels that because of what she knows about Mr. Gold, she's not. So she decides to set the record straight, and she tells the whole community, hey, I think Mr. Gold actually set the fire. She said she doesn't have 100% proof, but this is what I believe. Mr. Gold gets up in front of everybody and walks off. Now, this seemed to really have changed the tide afterwards, because back at the local diner, the mayor shows up with Mr. Glass and gives her the badge. Looks like she won. It's interesting with that because people seem to respect the honesty that she had, but also, from what the mayor says, the fact that she was able to stand up against Mr. Gold. So I think that itself, to me, now makes more sense. Since the mayor is the one who has to keep face with the public, Mr. Gold doesn't. He seems to definitely be that forgotten uncle, and for a reason, but that there are times where you still may require his help. So that part I never really paid full attention to until now. And again, I completely get it after seeing that situation. Later back at the precinct, Mr. Gold tells Emma that it was his plan all along. She looks completely shocked, thinking no one could have set all of that up. But what makes it even worse is that, she's now kind of in debt to him, and she just got, a higher official title. So he's definitely going to be coming back to her for saying a particular favor that she owes. And even he acknowledges as well the same thing, that for you standing up against me, you will actually get a lot more attention than standing up against the mayor. So that's the end of the episode. I definitely can't wait for the next season. This one was kind of slow though compared to the previous ones, but storyline wise, it was definitely on point. I was definitely fast forwarding through those commercials because it was good overall. Everything about this episode flowed very well, and I love the background about Rumpelstiltskin. Well, my name is Sean Andrew with the TV Show Review, and this has been a Once Upon a Time, Season 1, Episode 8, Desperate Souls. See ya.